Welcome to Issues That Matter. I'm Cynthia Pooler, and today I have my friend Jose Vega and his friend Ozzy
Oh,
with us. So we're going to talk about what's been going on since we last spoke. So, Jose, since we last had a conversation, what is the most important thing that sticks out in your mind that has happened?
well, I don't know. It's hard to pick because since we last spoke, we were I think at the closest risk of a nuclear war in a long time. There was this thing with the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant where the Ukrainians were saying the Russians were going to blow it up, and the Russians were saying the Ukrainians are trying to blow it up. And had it something happened, the United States was ready to mobilize NATO troops to go into Ukraine and kick off World War III right there. Thankfully, we've averted it, and both sides have said that the tensions have calmed down. So, yeah.
Uh, how many Americans do you think, from your perspective, are fully cognizant of the dangers of what's going on, or do they care? Are they not concerned? What do you think?
I think it's definitely probably, like, I could honestly say 55% of Americans. I mean, we know that because there was a survey done that 55% of Americans don't support the war. And so, that was a good thing. There's also the statistics that about like only 42% of people actually approve of Joe Biden's work and leadership,
Mm-hmm.
which I guess would include his foreign policy and also include what he does in Ukraine as, being something that they don't approve of.
Well, I want to direct my question in another way. How many people come up to you and say, "Gee, Jose, we might be vaporized tomorrow"? I mean, that sounds like a pretty glib statement, but there, as far as I'm concerned, it's a fear. How many other people are fearful as much as I am, or maybe you are?
Well, I'm usually the one who's fearful. I'm the one who tells people, listen, we're going to be vaporized anytime now if we don't do something.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I guess I'm the one who always does that. Other people don't believe. Maybe they do know the danger that we're in and don't want to face the reality of it because they're too scared to, because it's not an easy thing to come to terms with that, hey, we might be blown up. And this is an existential threat, because I think if people actually absorb that and really, decided to do something about it, they would then understand the gravity of what that means, and they would think, well, we can't do anything about it. And what can I do, And so they feel desperate.
Well, I watched your symposium the other night, and what you said is very important, that people should get involved. People should do something instead of sitting on the sidelines and letting things happen. And I think that's really important. At this particular time in human history, I think we all have to step up, do our little part to make sure that this planet lives on, right?
Oh yeah, no, totally. Exactly. I mean, now is in it, there has been no other time in history as dangerous as now, because this threatens the entire human race. Other parts of history has always been threatening of a nation or even of a race of people, but now we're talking every single life being annihilated on the planet.
Mhm.
And because of the nuclear radiation, people who do survive a nuclear war will not be able to reproduce. The human race will die a slow death.
Uh-huh. And when you think about, although I haven't been a world traveler, You know, there's many places in this world that are really beautiful, and not only natural beauty, but the architecture and the cities that have been built. And of course, there's the wildlife and forests and stuff. And if something happens, all that will be gone. And that to me is just like so incomprehensible.
I agree.
Yep.
I agree. And that's why I heard that AOC was endorsing Joe Biden again,
Yep.
which like really is a tragedy. But I mean, I'm not surprised. I saw it coming. The supposed woman who said she was going to blow up the establishment and cause a ruckus became exactly what she fought against. Became exactly the thing that she thought she was going to destroy. Now here she is supporting the establishment. And she said, I think Biden has done a pretty good job overall. I mean, how out of touch with your constituents do you have to be? How out of touch with reality do you have to be to believe that? And I think it also tells me she really does not understand the gravity of the fact that we're going to have a nuclear war.
How many times have you confronted her?
Well, it was just that one time. It was just that one time that that kind of kicked everything off and went super viral.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
So when it was filmed and it was put on the internet, did you think it would spread like wildfire the way it did?
No, I didn't know. No, I did not know what the effect would have been. I remember it got 1 million views, and then I woke up to it having 1 million views, and then everybody was just stealing it and spreading it all over. And I think it's more grim now because I say, and Kynan says this too, you're playing with our lives, and at that time it was like $40 billion or $50 billion sent to Ukraine. Now it's like 130 billion. And we say, you're playing with our lives. There will be no neighbors if there's a nuclear bomb. You're putting us all at, risk of nuclear war right now. And she, just completely played it off and ignored it. And like now that the stakes are even higher, like we keep getting pushed closer and closer to the brink of doom. Ozzy. Now we're being pushed closer and closer to the brink of doom. She's only becoming more of an establishment figure rather than less of an establishment figure. And, it just tells me that it's not even her. That's the thing. I think, I don't know how they corrupted her somehow, but, I don't know what kind of blackmail they must have on her that she's become such a tool for the establishment.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that the entire squad has capitulated the way she has?
That's difficult to tell. I mean, individually and personally, maybe they probably believe certain things that their actions don't reflect. So I'm sure the entire squad does endorse Biden. I think we had a video of Colin saying, or somebody from Independent News Network that was at a meeting with the whole squad, and Jamal Bowman, who was speaking for the squad, said, well, we have to get this old man across the finish line. In other words, we have to get Biden across the finish line and make him win again. And it was just so out of touch with reality. And I'm sure most of those people don't believe what they're saying, that they have to get Biden across. It's just they're the most impotent part of the Democratic Party. They only pay lip service. They don't do anything. And, when it actually comes to it, they won't fight for you. I do believe, and I get a lot of controversy for this. I do believe that the squad, or at least people like AOC, can be redeemed, and Jamal Bowman. People say, well, they're CIA, that they were this and that. But, Jamal Bowman, he was questioned by a friend of mine named Liam Cosgrove, who's a journalist over at Zero Hedge and Gray Zone. And he, my journalist friend asked him, like, well, can you tell me about the Donbass and Lugansk? And Jamal Bowman said, no, I don't know what that is. Why don't you educate me on that? And, so my friend said, hey, I mean, you voted to send 40, $50 billion to Ukraine, and you don't even know how this conflict started. And so then, Jamal Bowman was talking to him and saying, well, the reason the war started is because of the military industrial complex. I mean, and then my friend kept saying, well, you voted with the military industrial complex. And then Jamal Bowman says, that was one vote. That was one vote. What is one vote going to do? One vote doesn't mean anything, If you looked at my voting record, I voted to lower defense budget spending. So therefore, I am anti-war. I mean, first of all, what an idiot Jamal Bowman is, right? Just complete ignorance on his part. But secondly, as ignorant and stupid as that answer was, it shows that he really doesn't know what the hell he's voting on, and he doesn't know what he's doing. He's being told what to vote on and what to do. Mm-hmm. So I think these people could be educated, but it requires going past all their handlers and going past the people who make their policy decisions for them to where it's not even worth the trouble. The best way you're going to recruit them is through just doing your own action. And what it is once the winds change in terms of Ukraine, when you have mass action in the United States calling for the end of the Ukrainian war, calling for the end of US interventionism, what's going to happen is then they will start trying to jump on the bandwagon and say, oh, yeah, no, yeah, we agree. We want the same thing, too.
I remember reading in the early 70s, there was a peace march in Washington, D.C., and there was like 1 million people there. And Nixon looked out the window and saw all those people, and it scared the hell out of him. So I don't see people mobilizing in this country for 1 million person march to end the Ukrainian war, right?
Well, in Vietnam, I think the years 65 and 66 and 67, it was very unpopular to protest against the Vietnam War. It wouldn't be until Pentagon Papers were leaked and My Lai was happening and the My Lai massacres were published, and it wouldn't be until people's friends started getting drafted that people would actually mobilize. I spoke with somebody who was protesting the Vietnam War, as they say, before it was cool to protest the Vietnam War, at University of Michigan. And at University of Michigan, they have a big logo in the center with the M, for University of Michigan. And it was considered superstitious not to step on it. Nobody would ever step on it out of respect. And so what him and his friends did was they all got anti-war signs and peace signs and anti-Vietnam signs, and then they got in that circle. And he recounts being shouted down, all right, by like a mob of people telling them that they, are communists, that they're communist sympathizers, that they're this, that they're that. But then a few years later, then it became the other way around. Then you had the majority of people in that circle, and then the minority of people who were still supporting the Vietnam War. Mm-hmm. So, the only difference now, though, is that the stakes are much, much different because, well, we are, yeah. Go on.
When I turn on social media and, I know Diane, I know Scott personally, and these people speak out against the war, but it's only, and then there's Jimmy Dore, there's Clayton Morris, and they all speak out against the war, but it's only a handful of pundits and activists that are doing this right now. And, the threat of us being annihilated it could happen as we're talking right now, and I can't understand why people don't understand the urgency of the problem.
Well, point is, I think we just have to try and convince people of the urgency of the problem. And I think a lot of people too are kind of getting away with this. Well, Biden's not going to be president for much longer. Well, that's not going to happen for another year and a half. Okay. And even then, November of 2024 doesn't mean anything, because November of 2024 means Biden still has December and January. So even if he does lose, all right, these people are crazy enough. Look, man, these people are so crazy that they would stage another 9/11 to ensure that Biden gets like full authoritative powers until, the war is over or something like that. I mean, there is no such thing as democracy anymore in this country. Supposedly we're in Ukraine to defend democracy, and then what, Zelensky suspends presidential elections until the quote war is over.
Uh-huh.
The only way this is going to end is in more bloodshed, and it's bad. It's bad. I don't need to tell you how bad it is. You know how bad it is, but I just think that and look, we've been saved a couple of times already from total Armageddon. I mean, the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, was at the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant and said, we don't see any mines here. We don't see any explosives here. Okay, so if something happens, it's the Ukrainians, it's not the Russians, because the Russians control the plant. And people don't realize how close we came to complete and total World War III right there. And I keep telling people there's a movie to watch called Threads. I posted it on my Twitter because I have Twitter Blue. You can post videos up to 2 hours now. So there's a movie called Threads, which takes place in Sheffield, which is just outside of London. And the movie is exactly about the situation we're in right now. It starts with the Soviet Union at the time, and the United States and NATO are all, competing, and they're having problems about the Middle East or so. And then the Soviet Union claims the Americans have staged a false flag operation, and the United States are saying no, Russians use nuclear weapons, to the point where, well, the big one comes, and then the nuclear bomb actually happens. And then the rest of the movie is dedicated to how people live post-war, and how there is no way of living for humanity to live after a nuclear bomb.
Mhm.
It's a horrific movie. And I think when it first aired on BBC One in the UK, it was only aired for, I think, 36 hours or so, because people were so freaked out by the movie, they started calling the TV station saying, why would you play this? Why would you? This is horrible. This is horrific. The movie has like very little gore. There's no ghosts, there's no monsters, there's nothing, no jump scares. The movie is scary because it's real. And I would tell people, watch that movie and then tell me you're not afraid of a nuclear war.
Now, I put on MSNBC from time to time. It's very hard to take. And I hear the pundits on the show. It's like MSNBC, DNC. They're like an arm of the Democratic National Committee. And everything is Biden, Biden, Biden. And don't they realize that they're selling a bill of goods to the American people?
Yeah. And I think what the other thing you have to realize is that people aren't watching MSNBC anymore. Look at what happened when Tucker Carlson left Fox News. He got
Oh,
80
right,
million views on Twitter alone, as opposed
right.
to normal 4 or 5 million views ratings on Fox News.
Mhm.
Nobody cares about these people anymore. I think that's also why the intervention I did against the New York Times, where I said, you're dying and nobody cares what you have to say anymore. No, you have nothing productive to say anymore. I think that's intervention. It resonated with a lot of people, because people said, yeah, this guy's right. There is nobody cares about this media anymore. Nobody cares that this media is dying. And people look for alternative sources for their news nowadays, and it's a good thing, I think.
Yeah, the people on the cable news networks, they command a pretty decent salary. I mean, Rachel Maddow gets millions each year, right? So
Yeah.
what does she care if what she's saying is lies or not? She's still laughing as she goes to the bank, right?
Yeah, and the only people who watch MSNBC are just the old oligarchs who think they can control everything, and it's not working.
So I had heard or read that the 2024 election is going to be decided through social media, through what stuff like we're doing. Do you think that's the case?
No, because I don't think we have a say anymore. I don't think our elections are
No.
sure.
No. What I mean is, do you think that what we're doing and what like Jimmy Dore does and so forth, do you think it's gonna you don't think it'll sway the election?
I understood your question. I'm saying no, because the real vote will not be counted. That's why. I genuinely believe that these people are going to steal the election. It's just they're going to do everything they can to. The only way you cannot is if you have an overwhelming majority of people voting for one candidate. I mean, look, the ideal situation would be if Trump and RFK Jr. are the nominees for their respective parties, because then, me personally, I wouldn't be as afraid as I am now with either of those men. But it's not even about one of them becoming president. If they are the respective nominees of their parties, what you will have is a real dialogue of presidency, because I think you'll have real unity actually with both of those men running for president under the respective nominations, because that's what the establishment is really afraid of. That's why they have to keep burying RFK Jr., and that's why they have to keep trying to legally go after Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump is killing it in the polls right now. And he doesn't even do much campaigning. His name's in the news all the time because of them trying to put him in jail. And his entire party knows that what they're doing to him is a complete like fraud and it's a lie. And so I'm pessimistic about who gets to win the election, because I don't think they'll let anybody else win the election they don't want to win. And that's why I believe that the best action right now is the citizenry. The citizenry has to be the one that steps in right now and decide what's going to happen using the presidential procedure, not the electoral procedure,
You just brought up an interesting point where you said that Donald Trump really doesn't campaign that much. Okay, so maybe he has a organization in place throughout the states that when it comes time to get his name on the ballot and so forth, he might have that. And I don't know if he does or not, but I know that I don't see Robert Kennedy organizing in the different states to get his name on the ballot and so forth. So if Robert Kennedy is not organizing in the states, how does he hope to win when all he's doing is waging a media campaign?
Well, I understand his strategy because he's mostly in New Hampshire these days. I think because they're the first state that gets to vote on the primary. And the Democratic Party tried to do something where they wanted South Carolina to be the first state to vote, because that's where Joe Biden has a stranglehold on, which was very unfair, because historically New Hampshire has always been the first, right? And why do they get to change the rules just because of this one instance? It's complete, it's horrible. And so this also goes to my point of people who believe, like Brianna Joy Gray, who I think is very intelligent, and I respect the hell out of her, but I just don't understand her position when she says, we need to push Biden to the left with, a candidate that will threaten his presidency, and maybe we should withhold our votes until Biden does what we want. These people don't care about your vote because they don't need your vote to win. They showed that in 2020, and they're going to do it again. The only thing, if RFK Jr., who's becoming a real threat to Biden, is they'll either assassinate him or they're just going to rig the vote even harder. They're just going to cheat harder. They don't care. They're just going to cheat. They're going to cheat. And they've already done it before. They're going to do it again. So I really don't get the whole point about, well, we need to push Biden to the left with different candidates. That's like, it doesn't matter. That's why RFK Jr. right now has done a good thing so far with his June 20th speech. I don't know if you heard it, where he called on the present administration to adopt the maxims of his uncle to end this war. That's what he said. And yeah.
Now, Jose, we've met in person and we've talked on the phone and stuff. I don't know how old you are. How old are you?
I'm 24.
Okay, you're 24. How many people in your age group feels the same way you do?
Well, anybody who's hanging out with me in politics, yeah, but my friends that I've been friends with since high school are too busy smoking pot or something and playing video games and working, and don't care to know and don't want to know.
And that's a diversion, a deliberate diversion to take away the attention from what's really going on, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. So do you see any hope in waking them up to the threat that, hey, you might not be able to finish paying your student loans off, right?
Well, yeah.
Uh-huh. I go back to what you said on the symposium on Friday. Everybody's got to take a little responsibility and do a little something to make this world a better place. And, you know, you're doing it, I'm doing it in my own way, and Diane's doing it, Scott's doing it. But overall, I don't see a groundswell of that. I don't see a groundswell of activism that should be out there right now. Do you think it'll happen?
Yeah, I mean, if we make it happen, that's my best answer. If we make it happen.
Okay. So is there any other issues besides what you just talked about that sticks out in your mind of major importance since we last talked?
No, I think that that's pretty much it right now. For now, there was one thing, which is the Met Museum. You know, I'm sure a lot of your people are New Yorkers. The museum down on 86th Street and Fifth Avenue here in the city. There's a Juan de Pareja exhibit going on, and Juan de Pareja was one of the first Afro-Latino painters to really revolutionize art and paintings and portraiture. And there's an exhibit happening here. There's only 6 days left in the exhibit. And I've been reaching out to different legislatures to try and get them to extend the exhibit, because I think more people need to go see this exhibit. And I got an email back from Congressman Adriano Espaillat, that's his district. Okay. So this is an Afro-Latino painter, and his entire district is Afro-Latinos, right? His district has the Schomburg Center in it. The Schomburg Center, named after Arturo Schomburg, who started the Harlem Renaissance back in the 1920s. And his office told me they're not allowed to promote anything with the Metropolitan Museum of Art, which, even if that's true, why not put out something on Juan de Pareja? Why not put something out on Arturo Schomburg that just so happens to be going on in conjunction with the Met? They would have figured out some solution if they wanted to promote this, and they didn't. And so I guess I would just ask people to go see the exhibit, and if you can, write and call and ask them to extend the exhibit.
And you've only contacted people on the congressional level. Have you spoken to anybody in the state
Coun-
legislature?
Council, state, and assembly.
Wow. Wow. So Jose, if give your contact information if somebody would like to email you or tell you what a great job you're doing.
Well, it's my name, Jose Vega, JOSEVEGA. The number's 3923@yahoo.com.
Okay, Jose, thank you. We'll talk again. I'm Cynthia Pooler. This is Issues That Matter. If you like this show, follow us on, I'm sorry, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks, Jose. We'll talk again, and thank you everybody for listening. Have a wonderful day.